Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. These are some eyeshadow palettes I revisited. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. This video is a little bit later than you had expected perhaps, but I ran out of time to film yesterday. I went some errands in the morning and then I got home and it was too dark to film, like first do my makeup and then sit down to film. So that's why this video is a little later than you had expected perhaps, but I hope that doesn't tamper the fun because I did go back to 5 older eyeshadow palettes that were already in my makeup collection, 2 of which I created myself with singles, and one of the looks that I created with those singles is what's on my eyes today. So I thought I could talk you through the looks I did. Do I still like these eyeshadow palettes now that I've tried them again? Some of these, you know, are some long-standing favorites, and some of this I just had to get back to. That's why they are here. So let's chat about some older eyeshadows. So in case you don't know this about me, even though I have a vast makeup collection, I do want to challenge myself to make sure I go back to things and that it's just not, this was my review and that's all you see with the palette. I want to talk about my favorites, I want to keep recommending things, and I want to keep things in active use past their first usage, especially if it was an eyeshadow palette I loved. And that goes for all of these. I love all of these palettes, but sometimes when you use them a little bit later again, then you might find something that you didn't like as much that you didn't see the first time. So, and for me as well, sometimes your makeup preferences just change over time. I do have to say with all of this, I still love all of it, so none of this is gonna go, but I did realize one thing about one of the palettes that I wanted to use together. So first things first, I think the first time I went to these palettes in particular, I ended up going for my Dior Smoky Essentials. This is one of the eyeshadow palettes from their Backstage line, and this is part of their permanent collection. You can still buy this as far as I know. And it perhaps doesn't look like a color story that you would deem like very mica proof per se. I mean, I think it looks beautiful, but it looks very warm toned in the pan. And I don't find it that warm toned once on my lids. Say for this shade here, this like goldy beige shade is the one I kind of ignore. Everything else works really well. I love this rosewood shade. It's such a good crease shade for me. I like using this all over the lid. This perhaps is a bit of liner or perhaps the black. Or if I want to keep it in that rosy realm, I can also opt for this plummy pink. Well, plummy pink? Is that the right word for it? It's more like a burgundy almost. It's not too purple, it's not too brown, and it's got a rosy quality to it. That's how I would categorize it. And then you just have some lighter shades to help with blending for use on the lower lash line, in the inner corner. It is a very satin formula though, so if that's something you don't like, you're not gonna like this formula. It is very thin. It's a very thin, easy to work with formula. If you're used to indie palettes, this is like doing a complete 180. Indie palettes are known for their pigmentation and for their intense high shine shimmers. This is the complete opposite of that. And the narrative I see a lot online very often is that people then think this is bad makeup because it lacks pigment and it doesn't have the high shine shimmers. It's different makeup. It's also supposed to do a different thing for you. Another thing this is supposed to be is usable by everybody. No matter your skin tone, your skill level, this is makeup made for the masses. So that's not going to give you the same thing as an indie palette would. It's not intended to. So therefore, by saying that this is bad quality makeup because it's sheer and more buildable, doesn't mean it's bad makeup. It's just trying to give you something differently than what you perhaps want. That's a side of the narrative of a lot of these like luxury brands that do these sort of satin formulas where I sort of miss this perspective on a lot of beauty users. I do find that this is excellent quality makeup, mainly because of the lightweight formula. This you can do no wrong with. No matter how you use it, what brushes you have, what tools you might have, this will always work. No matter who uses it. It's going to look great on your lids if you struggle with texture, if you struggle with fallout, if you struggle with creasing. This is going to be foolproof makeup because this is such a sheer I wouldn't call it sheer, but such a lightweight formula. It doesn't go on heavy. And I feel like with creasing, a lot of the times it's because the layer of makeup that's on your lid is just a little bit too thick. And because this is such lightweight textured makeup, you can still get the look, but you can build it up to where you want it to be. So there isn't going to be like any heaviness to your lid. There isn't going to be anything that's really going to affect this in a negative way. It's layerable, it's blendable, it's easy to work with. You can get a little bit of shine all over the lid that's really pretty, but don't expect flaky shimmers from this. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not intended to be that. It's supposed to be usable by everyone, and then you just get different things. If that's not what you like, then stay away from these things. I happen to like that. I do my makeup, I say this very often, I do my makeup for work when I get ready in the morning. I by now have the skill level that I can do, I can work with almost every formula out there simply because I've tested out so many things. But this, it allows you to do a makeup look in under 2 minutes. And sometimes I want that. Sometimes I need that. If I've overslept or if I'm rushing or whatever it is that I'm doing that day, I like having formulas like this in my makeup collection because I know I can grab for them and it's going to be super easy to work it around my workday and still have a very put together makeup look that's going to look really pretty on, that's going to last all day. And I mean, especially if you like have to travel a lot for work, these are really easy to carry around with you as well. It's not these giant palettes. It's just really small, curated. Every shade goes together. You can use the whole thing and it's still going to look pretty. So that's why I think this is an excellent palette still till this day. I really enjoyed the look I created with it and I felt like $1,000,000 wearing this. Let's talk about the complete opposite when it comes to formula, because I did have an indie brand palette in here, the Mary Jane from Melt Cosmetics, and this is another palette that was often vilified when it was still available. It's sadly been discontinued because of the fact that it had these really difficult to play with shimmers. I like this palette if you approach it like a neutral smoky eye palette that has toppers in. So that's how I use this palette myself. I tend to always go for some of these browns that are here to set up the crease. You can see what my favorite shimmer is because that has the biggest dent. I love pulling in these like almost green leaning shades. They're like in between a brown, a gray, and a green. I call them green color taupes. I don't think that's necessarily a thing color theory wise, but that's how they fit in my brain. And I ended up using this as well in my makeup look when I was using this palette. And then I always love topping it with this shade a little bit. I tend to pick it up with my fingers and then it can really nicely like just be an additional layer to add a little bit of brightness to these really dark shades that it has. And I feel like this shade here does the same thing. You can see I use this with a brush in the inner corner as well. And these shimmers are flaky. I'm not sure if you can see, but if I hope I don't blind you with the mirror here, but you can see how messy this palette gets. That's because of the shimmer formula. So I like both. And with this, I feel you just need to play with it a couple of times to really get a feel for what this palette can bring you. I tend to ignore some of these gray tones in the middle, not because I don't like them, but because they are really, really dark. If I want to go smoky though, this is the perfect palette for me. I have my go-to look with it, which I did again this time round. And it worked out really well because I was actually wearing an outfit that day that had a little bit of this cocky green moment as well. And I felt that this went with it perfectly. So that's really lovely. But like I said, compared to the Dior, this is the exact opposite what you're getting in terms of formula. This is intense pigmentation. You need to blend really carefully and make sure you do not pick up too much on your brush because it's gonna go everywhere. And with the shimmers, you need to be very careful as well. Use a packing brush or your fingers to lay down the initial like layer of shadow and then you can blend. If you use these shimmers with too fluffy brushes, it's going to fall down your face immediately and you're going to have a very messy makeup look. I'm someone who likes to do their foundation first and eyeshadow second, and I never really struggle with fallout, but if you're a messy makeup user, with a palette like this, it's sometimes better to do your eyes first and then the rest of your makeup. Just so you know. But yeah, the Melt Mary Jane, beautiful palette, still this day. I have reconfirmed for myself why this is such a firm favorite. I still love this. I really, really do. I still think this is an excellent palette. I do feel, now that I've used it again, that some of these shimmers are starting to like seal a little bit. Like they're getting a little bit of hard pan, I think. Something I can probably scrape off and I can still keep using it because, like I said, this is discontinued. I can no longer buy this. But yeah, if Melt does what they're now doing the stack, but that's all matte, I believe. There's a couple of shimmers in there, but if they did this as a stack in that new format that they've done, I would purchase it in a heartbeat, because this in an updated formula for Melt, I think would be better even. But yeah, Mary Jane by Melt is still one of my faves. And then the final true like existing palettes, again, one of this was discontinued. The other one, the last time I checked, was still listed on the Colourpop website, but it was out of stock. But I told you in some of my grungy videos that I did to prepare for fall, that come fall time, I really wanted to pair these two together. The Troublemaker is the one you can still find. I hope they bring it back for fall. And then with my Baroque, which they did years ago. This is such a beautiful palette. Can we admire this, like the aesthetic of this packaging? This is some of the best packaging that Colourpop has done. Of course, Colourpop packaging isn't all that special with the cardboard slimline packaging, but this entire line, they had such beautiful prints on the palettes. The Baroque, I never know how to say this in English, but this is a beautiful, grungy, old, grayish blue color story. This is forever going to live in my makeup collection unless a different brand starts to do something like this. But I've realized something as I was using these together, that the kind of look I get out of this, I can recreate with this. So if you don't own this, but you can still get your hands on this and you're looking for that grungy sort of cool tone look with a little bit of interest, then the Troublemaker can actually give you just that. Because what I ended up doing when I played with this is that I just used some of the mattes from this, combined it with this, but the shimmer in the middle of the Baroque and the shimmer in the Troublemaker that's right here, same effect. They give exactly the same effect on the lids. Of course, this doesn't have the blue undertones to them. It's more like grayish plums. So it definitely has a different vibe, but in the sense of the undertones. But if you look at the overall look that you get on your lids, whether you're using this or whether you're using this, I mean, the gray tones in here also have a very cool bluish hue to them. They're not warm tone grays at all. So if you stick to the gray tones that are in here, I think you can achieve a similar vibe to what you're getting with this. I ended up using, what did I end up using again? I ended up using, I think, this in the crease with a little bit of this just to have a little bit more interest there. And then I ended up using the shimmer all over the lid. This I put in the inner corner, and I used this matte here as a bit of liner. And I think, yeah, I used this on the lower lash line. That's what I ended up doing. But yeah, this was one of those palettes where I was like, I keep saying this is a favorite, but I don't use it that often because it is a very particular color story. But because it is so unique and because it was discontinued years ago, this was a limited edition, I don't reach for it because I don't want it to like go bad. And I feel like the more often you use a product, if you don't actively try to use it up, the more you open the product, the more it's going to be likely to expire. I feel like that's the case with my Mary Jane because I have used that one a lot more. Like I said, the Troublemaker can give you a very similar vibe, but if we judge this palette by itself, it's a beautiful, more muted, grungy color story that is cool tone, but there's a little bit of warmth, but I feel it's mainly over here that we get a little bit of warmth. Everything else is pretty cool toned. It has a beautiful silver shimmer in this like mirrored effect, almost shimmer like thing. It's got a couple of super shocks in if that's a formula you still want to try, and it's got some really lovely deeper shimmers too. But it's got a really good blend of both mattes and shimmers. This works really well together with the Cloud 9 as well. So I think actually the Cloud 9 with the Baroque would be pretty too, now I think of it. But yeah, this was a really good little combo. This way I can make the Baroque a little bit more wearable, because I think what's putting me off with the Baroque is that I don't really get a crease shade. So if you look at this, like this is just a touch too dark for me to really make it usable for me for the lid. And then everything else that I could potentially use that's light enough has a bit of shimmer in, which I'm not a huge fan of in the crease anymore. So that's why this for the crease shades, and then just this using this for the fun things, I think can work really well actually. So this is a really lovely little thing here, and yeah, this is a combo I will go back to in the future, I'm sure, because these things are not going anywhere in my makeup collection. Next up were the, I don't know how many shades I selected. I think there were 15 in here. So I made a little palette for myself in these two empty palettes that I have, a little Nabla one and a little Z palette one that I've both had for years. I think both of them were even like gifts with purchase or something like that. I didn't do the looks yet with all of the shades. However, I know that tomorrow I need to do my makeup, and then I will be filming some lipstick videos. So the most neutral things that are in here, I'm going to save for creating that look with. So if you watch some of my videos that go up next week, then you'll be able to see the look that I did with this tomorrow. So you're going to be able to see it. It's just not going to be in this video yet. I ended up putting a couple of Sydney Gray shades in here, and then some really fun, beautiful shimmers as well. There's some MAC in here as well. I don't remember off the top of my head what everything is, I'm afraid. I did, like when I put it together, I knew it straight away, but I haven't really, like that's the downside with these singles, I guess. And then here's the other 9 pans. So together, they've been playing really well, I have to say. I do make a mix of both of them though, if I'm using them. I don't just use this one and use this one. I thought when I put them together that that's how I was gonna use them, but now I've actually used them and I'm like, no. That's not what we're gonna do, boo. But yeah, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. It's the MAC ones, so, ooh. I almost dropped it on the floor. I haven't used my 2 MAC ones here yet, and I haven't used this shimmer yet here. I think that's Tiara from Sydney Grace. This is Starfish by Sydney Grace. I remember putting that in. I need to check really quickly what this is. Oh, that's a no-name brand. Oh, that's fine. This is a Sydney Grace shade, and then these two are MAC. You can see they're really old because I used to use them all the time, so they have big dents in. This is Woodwinked, and this is Satin Taupe. I did go for Satin Taupe. Yeah, so those are things I still need to put into a look, which I'll be doing tomorrow, and I'm going to pair them with Tiara. And then I have some shades in here as well. So I think, is this another MAC one? Yeah, this is Wedge. So I put MAC Wedge in here. This is a Davina shade. This is called Asteria. I have this dark chocolatey brown that was in the mystery bags from Sydney Grace this summer. It's something like Puma, whatever. I've got a Lethal Cosmetics shade in here. This is a Colourpop single. They used to do singles, people. This is called Tea Garden, I believe it's called. And then I have another Sydney Gray shade in here. And we need to go up here. And these are all Cleona. So I think it was like Bloodline. No, which ones did I use again? I don't remember. Yeah, it was. It's Bloodline, Opulent, and Glint. Those are the 3 that I used. The one I haven't used yet is Bloodline. That's the one I haven't used from this palette. But everything else I've used. So what are the 2 looks I've done so far? The first look I did, I ended up using this shade by Sydney Grace in the crease. This is called Truffle Toffee. I do have to say a lot of my Sydney Grace shades come from mystery bags, and they don't tend to always put those in their permanent collection, only if they're like super popular, I believe. And then what I ended up doing is sort of doing a green toned look. So I used Davina Asteria all over that. I found the crease shade a little bit too dark, so I used Wedge to sheer it out a little bit. I ended up putting Starfish as liner. And then I went back into this one and used my Lethal Cosmetics shade. I'm dropping things left, right, and center. The Lethal Cosmetics shade is on the lower lash line there, and I used a little bit of Glint because it has a green flip in the inner corner, and that was really successful. Or no, I also use a little bit of Tea Garden on the lower lash line. Now I remember. And then for the second look I did, which is what's actually on the lids today, I ended up going in with, no, it's the other way around. No, I went in with Wedge all over the lid, I now remember. And then I ended up using this one, Opulent, all over the lid. So that's what I ended up doing there. And then I ended up going for this dark brown Puma shade in the liner sort of region on the top lash line. And then I think, yeah, I used Bloodline on the lower lash line, so I did use it. And then I ended up going for this No Name shade in the middle here for the inner corner. And so like I've said in videos in the past how I struggle to use multiple multi-chromes in a look. And that's what I was trying to push myself to do here. Very often I feel a multi-chrome really shines if it's the only shade on your lid. But by having different placements, you can use a couple of them. I just find they never really blend very well because you cannot really see the shifts that way. So on the lower lash line, all over the lid, and then in the inner corner. And that's been working out quite well for me. So yeah, that's the look that I did with this. It was really, really successful. I'm going to be doing this one in the crease tomorrow, and then I'm going to be using the 4 remaining shades for the rest of the look. So I think what I'm gonna do is going to be putting these two in like the inner corner on the lower lash line, this all over the lid, and just call it a day. I need to have a very basic look on because I'm going to be swatching so many of these lipsticks tomorrow. So that's always something I need to take into account. Like, when am I filming what? So what look am I going to do? So I'm going to be doing that tomorrow, and then you'll see that look in an upcoming video this upcoming week. It's going to be the final Catrice lipstick video. I don't know what happened to my brain, but I was in such a scramble because I thought I had the entire collection of these Catrice Endless Matte lipsticks. And then what ended up happening is that I like unwrapped everything, and then I was like, oh, but I don't think I have all of them. So I was waiting for like Catrice to like drop the full line and go into store trying to find like the remaining shade. And now I've lined them all up and I'm like, there was just one with a missing sticker. I've had the entire collection from the get-go, and here I was waiting until I could go to store to see which one I was missing. This is why I couldn't figure it out. Like, sometimes my brain, I don't know why. Anywho, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna do the final Essence and Catrice video this week, and then I can do the update with all of my reviews in November. That's the plan. So thank you so very much for joining me here today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm gonna be doing another type of video like this in November, I'm sure. I only need to review 4 new to me eyeshadow palettes this month, so I think it's going to be doable to do another palettes revisited video before the end of the month. I like having a selection of like 4 or 5 older palettes to go back to, sometimes roll in a couple of singles, but I do have to be very fair and say that this is the first month where I've managed to even have the brain space to put palettes together with some singles, and then to also be able to use them. So I don't know if that's going to happen in November. I think I actually have like 4 or 5 palettes already that I think I still need to go back to. But yeah, that's what I have in store for you really, really soon. So stay tuned. And if you want to see what I'm selecting to be featured in this video, and also what palettes I will be reviewing, you need to stay tuned and watch my Shop My Stash video. My Shop My Stash video that goes live at the start of every month. I actually give you the full lowdown of what what products am I reviewing, what content will I be filming for you, what are like the things that are coming up, etc., etc. So I kind of use it as a newscast. But there you will also know like what my favorites I want to go back to, and those are all things that are in there. What lipsticks I was wearing all month. So that is something you can look forward to in that video that's coming on Tuesday. So hope you enjoyed watching this video. In the meantime, I hope to see you again really, really soon in a new video as well. Have a great weekend, everyone, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye-bye.